Alright folks, welcome back to Swift on Sundays. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thanks to everyone saying hello in the chat window, it's great seeing you back. We've got a massive project to make today. Really, I think, quite expansive and broad and brave and lots of good things like that. We're covering Vapor today, server-side Swift. And what we're going to try and do in an hour and a half ideally, is make a complete Vapor backend in Swift. And then the Swift front end for that in iOS. So we have back end and a front end in the same video stream. Obviously, this is quite a challenge. I'll do my best to try and get through with as few mistakes as possible. As always, if you have questions about what I'm doing right now, use the chat window, get in there, ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them as we go. If you have questions about everything else, Paul, why not Katora? Paul, why not Perfect? Paul, why not Flutter? I don't know what it is this week. Please keep that to the end because they're all pretty distracting. So just to keep the on-topic ones in the chat window be great for now, and the off-topic ones for later on. As always, again, we have a zero harassment policy. If I see anyone harassing anybody for discrimination purposes for any reason, race, gender, sexuality, whatever, you're going to get an instant ban. It's literally zero tolerance. So I've warned you ahead of time. So we have stacks to get through. So this time I say we're doing Vapor in the back end and iOS in the front end. Now this is going to require two very different sets of skills. You know, the iOS app itself is going to be fairly easy, so I'll talk to the back end. But the Vapor thing is going to be quite challenging if you've never touched Vapor before. I'm going to try and break it down as we go to explain what's going on. But Vapor is a fairly complex system. And the end result, as you'll see, is you write hardly any code. But the knowledge required to enable you to write hardly any code is quite high. So I'll do my best to explain as we go. If you have questions, again, use the chat window and I'll get in there. First question from Giuliano. It's off topic, but I'll allow it. It's where's the wine? And here it is right here. It is Sunday evening. I am back from an adventure weekend, which is great fun, and back from a fencing tournament with my daughter. So it is time for Swift. Okay, that's enough chat from me. I want to go straight to the code. We've got so much to try and get through. I'm running, again, Swift 5. But I'm currently running xcode 10.2 beta 4, which is the latest version right now. So hopefully if you're running something similar, it should be fine. I don't think Vapor's tested with Swift 5 yet, much. Swift 4.2 is perfectly fine. In fact, probably a better idea at this point. Anyway, I'm going to switch on my screen and we can kick off with the talk. There's so much to get through. So, boom, you should see my screen. So, Vapor projects are complicated beasts. And there are some built-in Vapor templates you can get your hands on to try and work with, or you can use mine. Regardless of what you use, it's generally a good idea to use Vapor's built-in toolkit, which is called Vapor, unhelpfully. And it's on Homebrew. Now, if you don't already have Homebrew, you need to go in your browser to brew.sh. I'll show you the URL, brew.sh. And that's where you get Homebrew from. If you already have Homebrew, ignore that. Forget about it, don't worry about it. If you have not got Homebrew, you need to go and get it now, because that's how you install the Vapor toolkit. So go to brew.sh, and basically paste this long, big command here into your command line. And that will install Homebrew on your Mac so you can get the Vapor toolkit. And that Vapor toolkit gives you commands to generate Vapor projects, push to Vapor Cloud, build projects, and so forth. It's quite a handy little tool thing to have around. Plus it draws little ASCII graphics as well. It's quite pretty. Anyway, it's a good idea to have that. So if you have not already got Homebrew, get Homebrew now. Run that command. It'll install Homebrew. Once that's done, you want to run the command to install Vapor's toolkit using Homebrew. And that command is brew, if I make the font a bit bigger in here, brew install Vapor slash tap slash Vapor, like that. Brew install Vapor slash tap slash Vapor. And that will give you the Vapor toolkit. I'll run it here and it'll do nothing because I already have Vapor toolkit. But for you, if you have not already got the Vapor toolkit, which you already have not, it'll have to install it. And chances are Homebrew have to download all sorts of recipes like it's doing that, updating my Homebrew. Mine's pretty much up to date, that should be fine. Oh, there's even new ones, great, there you go. Anyway, so it's saying I already have Vapor 3.1.10, so it's not a problem for me. But for you, if it's your first time using Vapor, it'll say, oh, I've not got this, and it'll install all the tools required to make Vapor work. So you need to have Homebrew, you need to have the Vapor toolkit. Once you have that, you can go ahead and create a project from a template. And Vapor ships templates you can use for doing web front ends or API backends and similar, all using Vapor's built-in code. And I don't use them. I don't use them because they give you lots of code. Like if you watched the Sprite kit thing we did, I think 2 weeks ago in Swift on Sundays, you'll know how much I despise Xcode's Sprite kit template, because it's not really template, it's more example code. You've got to go in and delete lots of stuff to get it back to a clean state. That really annoys me. So I don't do that. I have my own template, my own Vapor 3 template I use, which is cleaned up. I can show it to you on GitHub because it is just open source. So GitHub/2straws, and it's called Vapor-clean. And this is basically the built-in Vapor template with all their code deleted. I've taken this back to the absolute bare minimum of what a Vapor app will look like. And I'll walk you through in a second what it looks like in code. But this is effectively the slimmest possible, no work required Vapor project you can get your hands on. It can't get any simpler than this. Just start the server and does basically nothing else. So although you can use the official Vapor stuff, it's very, very good. You do get a lot of extra work you're going to have to just delete yourself, which is very annoying, I find. I prefer starting from a blank template every time. You know, I'm a bit of a purist. Anyway, so we're going to use that template now. And I'll walk you through what it does, so I'm not like, pulling the string over your eyes at all. You'll get a full idea of what it's doing. I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'll run the command Vapor new, make a new project, please. And I'll call this thing Cupcake Corner. That's our project, Cupcakes. And you do --template. This way you provide a template, either one of Vapor's templates or my template or your template, whatever you want to do. I'm going to say template equals 2straws/vapor-clean. That's my GitHub repo address. github.com/2straws/vapor-clean. So that thing says, go to GitHub, get my template, and use that for the project. I'll press return. You can have a little think about that. Boom, it's done. So it's basically cloned my template and nothing more, and just renamed the Cupcake Corner rather than Vapor Clean. And what you'll see lurking behind this chat window on the right of my window is this Cupcake Corner window, which contains the project it got from GitHub, now renamed Cupcake Corner. And for now, we're going to just run a few simple commands to get an idea of what it's doing behind the scenes. We're going to run the Vapor build command. And that's job is to have a massive error. Great. Totally failed. Oh, no. Oh, great. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong directory. Don't forget to change your current directory. Cupcake Corner. There we go. That's our first error of the evening, folks. Change your Cupcake Corner directory and then run Vapor build, and you're guaranteed a significantly higher success rate. Okay, now it's working. The job of this thing is to build your code. So it's going to go through and make sure all your source code, all Vapor source code, and all the other dependencies you have, it'll build them all and produce a finished app that you can run as your backend. That's fine. You'll see this yellow warning, no .build folder, fetch may take a while. Because build is knowing, it's aware of the fact that we have not already downloaded Vapor. We've got my project, my template from GitHub, but the Vapor dependencies behind the scenes, of which there are quite a few, it has not got yet. So it's going to go ahead and download those from the internet and put them into our project folder in this .build folder, and then build the source code like I said in the first place. Question from Bogdan Andre. First command of Vapor template. Yes, the command is this. Vapor, new, Cupcake Corner, or your project name here, --template equals 2straws/vapor-clean, or your template name here. That's my template, and you'll see in a second, I've trimmed it back to be as empty as possible. This thing is like a skeleton. It's almost like a Halloween costume. It's super slimline template for Vapor. It's a very good thing to use. Question from Kleiman. There are no cupcakes included, I'm afraid. Only wine. Sorry. Anyway, so it has, as part of doing Vapor build, it has downloaded all dependencies. So it's fetched Vapor's source code from GitHub and everything Vapor uses and everything that uses and so forth. It's all SPM stuff. And it's built the project, so we know it's fine to go. Most of the time, oh hey Guy, how are you doing? One thing you can do here, good idea generally to make your life easier, is to run Vapor xcode, which will ask Vapor to generate an xcode project you can use in xcode. Now, you may know that this behind the scenes really is using the Swift package manager, which is kind of good. It kind of works most of the time, but there are some hiccups. Now, if you try and make an xcode project, which we're going to do now, and then make changes to your project, your package manager, for example, which we're going to do shortly, it will basically invalidate that command. A question from Kanduri has a problem. Make sure you update your version of Vapor Toolkit. Otherwise, you will have problems because Xcode changes all the time. And you have to update Vapor Toolkit to match it all the time. So you got to make sure your Vapor version and your Xcode version are both bang up to date. Anyway, I'll run Vapor Xcode, and it'll make an Xcode project. Now, again, I'm using Swift 5 in Xcode 10.2 here. This will make it a 4.2 project, which is basically fine. There's no changes realistically. I'll choose Y to open the project. It'll open Xcode 10.2. And this is all the code it's made. Now, we can see down the left here, these are all the dependencies it fetched. So there's Vapor, which is what we asked for, but WebSocket, validation, template kit, multipart, crypto, Swift Neo, all these other things that Vapor needs to run are also fetched. So that Vapor build command is really helpful. It's doing lots and lots of work for us thanks to the Swift Package Manager. Anyway, for now, I just want to see this thing's working. You'll see up here we have a target, which is cupcake corner-package by default. That builds a package. We don't want that. We want to click on that and choose run. It's helpfully called run, which means this is the thing you actually run to launch your server. Choose run and my Mac. And that there is the target you want to run to actually build and run your server. I'll press Command R now. This will do an Xcode build now, and it will hopefully whiz through this in about a few seconds with a fairly fast Mac. And ignore this conversion Swift 5 thing. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. Leave it alone. So it's building now. It's running now. And what you'll see is down here, this message here is the important one. Starting server on http:// localhost / 8080, which means it's starting on the localhost machine, my local server, on port 8080, which is usually a free port. So we can test this out now. We'll go ahead and launch Safari. We have already, I think, with Vapor, there we go, that thing there. And I'm going to go to localhost / 8080, and you'll see error true, reason not found. So it couldn't find the home page, which is fine. But if we do /hello, we'll see hello world printed out. And that's all my template does. That's the entirety of my template right there. It'll print hello world out and you go to /hello. So that's our basic template working. I want to walk you through just quickly what this thing's actually doing because really it's as small as it can possibly go. So back in Xcode, in the project navigator, we're looking in app and run. This thing, this main thing, we never touched that. This is Vapor's thing to go ahead and configure an application. It'll do all the work required to launch Vapor. That's saying, make me an app, run the app, otherwise print the error. That's Vapor's code. We can ignore that. What we care about are package.swift, which is a Swift package manager description of what our actual application needs to run. So it's saying, yes, give me Vapor up to 3.1 or beyond or similar. And it relies on Vapor. We also care about this file here, routes, where we define our routes. And a route is the URL part you want to handle. So hackingswift.com/awards or /100, wherever you want to. That /100 is a route. And you can see here, we have one route matching hello, which is what you saw, and it's just returning hello world. So that's why that route, localhost / 8080 /hello, that's why you're seeing hello printed out, because it's happening there. The third file I care about is this one here, configure.swift. This is where you add in your configuration for your Vapor server, what it should do. Does it want databases? Does it want templates? Does it want sessions and more? You configure it here before all the routes launch. And these are shared by all your routes using its dependency managing system. It'll make one, say, database and share it everywhere, or make one template renderer and share it everywhere, all done by Vapor. So, as you can see, in package, we require Vapor and nothing else. So just leave it as Vapor. It's always a simple possible template you can get our hands on here. In configure, we make a router here, and then nothing else. In our routes, we say get hello, return hello world. Nothing else. So it's the simplest possible thing. And you can go ahead and look at Vapor's templates. There's an API template there. It does significantly more for you. It'll set up databases and create more routes and so forth. And if you want sample code, it's great for that. If you want to build something yourself, you've got to kind of delete their code to get back to a clean template to build from. So this Vapor Clean thing I have here is the slimmest possible version of Vapor you can get your hands on. Just shows one thing saying hello world. So it's a great place for us to build on, to build our own routes and similar. Anyway, what we have so far, and our trivial template so far, is this thing here. Hello world. That's our entire template. I'll get these two windows here. It prints out hello world, right? And we obviously can't go with that. We want significantly more than that. What we don't want to do is start writing HTML in here. We don't want to say, return HTML head, body, P, here. That's really nasty because you're confusing Swift and HTML in one place, which is never a good idea. But secondly, Swift isn't particularly fast to compile, bluntly. So if you have to hand code all your HTML, firstly, you do it in xcode, which isn't a great HTML editor. But secondly, you have to recompile your Swift code every single time, just simple HTML changes. So putting your HTML into Swift is an emergency thing only. You don't want to do it unless you can really, really avoid it. What we want to do is have this thing rendered separately. Have our HTML in one place, our Swift code somewhere else, and tell the Swift to render this HTML. So we're saying it's an external HTML file, which is much, much nicer way of working. And this thing in Vapor, as Brian's pointed out, is using a system they made called Leaf, which is what's called a template renderer. It takes templates, which is HTML, with some gaps in. And those gaps you can fill with Swift code. You just pass in values from Swift HTML. So Leaf is a HTML packaging system. You say, here's my HTML, more HTML, more HTML, da, da, da. And Swift will say, okay, render the home page, render the users page, render the login page. And it will render that in HTML separately from your Swift. So HTML's over here, isolated nicely, edited in, VS Code or Atom, whatever you want to use over here, separate from your Xcode and Swift code over here. To keep the two separate, it's a good idea. So, to do that, we have to ask SPM, the Swift Package Manager, to give us Leaf. Now, over here in Package Swift, you'll see I'm saying I want to have the Vapor Core framework up to 3.1, which is a fairly modern version of Swift here. And we want to have this thing use Leaf as well. Tom, great question. Off topic. I'm sorry. I can't handle off topic questions at this point. Later on. We want this thing to have not only the Vapor Core, like, render up pages, but also Leaf. So we can have HTML rendering separately from our engine. So we're going to say up here, I'll copy this line, give me the package, github.com/vapor, but not vapor.git, but leaf.git. And that will just use 3.0. That's, I think, a very modern version of Leaf right there. So it's now going to fetch the Vapor Core and the Leaf Core. All that code will come down. We have to tell this thing that as well as having a dependency on Vapor, it also has a dependency on Leaf. So it'll build our code using Vapor and using Leaf together. So we'll do dependencies is an array of Vapor, comma, Leaf. Both these things at the same time. Now, I'm going to go ahead and save that file, then close xcode. Now again, the SPM thing's problematic. You don't generally want to try and change your xcode project while xcode's looking at it. You want to quit xcode, get out of there if you can, like this. Yes, go away. And then back in your terminal window again, do Vapor build or fetch, whatever works for you. And that will cause it to get the latest dependencies. It'll say, okay, I've got Vapor, I have that already, great. I need to get Leaf as well. And it'll start downloading Leaf and preparing Leaf, and now compiling it into our application alongside the Vapor Core. That'll take a bit of time to run. In fact, it's just finished, great. I'll do Vapor Xcode again. If you add -y, it auto opens Xcode after it creates the project, which is a good idea. Boom, there we go. And now, all being well, there we go. Down the left here, you might see Leaf is here, Leaf 302, next to Vapor and WebSocket and, Swift Neo and other. They're all in here. So the main thing is now you can see Leaf is involved. It's fetched Leaf correctly and rebuilt our project alongside Vapor, which is great. So now what we want to do is create some HTML in our Vapor project that we can load from Swift. In Finder, here's our project here, Cupcake Corner. You'll see this resources folder is in there. So there's a folder called views, and that's empty. And that thing, I've added it for you in the clean project. It's empty, but it tells you where to put your HTML. Because any Leaf files you put inside that resources views folder, that's what will be loaded by Vapor when you say load index.leaf or load users.leaf. It'll look in that resources views folder. So you want to make sure you put your views files into there for Leaf to find, otherwise it'll be confused. So I have Sublime text ready somewhere. Here it is, down here. I'm going to write a little bit of HTML, and I'm going to keep it super simple. You know, I'm not a big fan of HTML in a Swift stream like this. Keep it Swift focused, so we'll do some very, very small amount of HTML. We're going to say, all being well, HTML, there we go, HTML, body. I'm going to H1 saying Cupcake Corner. Add a paragraph saying, welcome to Cupcake Corner. End the paragraph, end the body, and end the HTML. Boom. That's everything. Real simple at this point. I'll press Command S on my desktop, choose Cupcake Corner, Resources, Views. You've got to put your files in there. If you don't put them in there, Leaf won't find them, you'll get errors and you'll be confused, you'll be angry and you'll probably blame me. Don't blame me, put them in Resources Views, it'll make your life much, much easier. I'll call this thing home.leaf. It's our home page right there. Brilliant. You'll see Sublime does not recognize Leaf as a HTML template, so it'll give you no highlighting. If you want highlighting, you can probably change like plain text to be HTML down here, and it'll look slightly nicer. There we go. Boom. Okay. So it's now giving us syntax highlighting HTML, which is great. So what we have to do now is configure our Vapor server to use Leaf. Because again, this template I've made is super skinny. It'll start a web server up on port 8080, nothing else. No Leaf, no database, nothing. So we have to add that code by hand. You choose you want Leaf, you choose you want SQLite, you choose what you want, whatever you want. So you want to have that by hand. So to do that, we're going to open up configure.swift, where we configure our Vapor server to run before any routes are touched, just to configure everything globally. We're going to add, before import Vapor, we'll add import Leaf, the Leaf renderer. And now we're going to tell Vapor that when we want to render some HTML, it should use Leaf. So it should prefer Leaf over everything else. Now, it uses the terminology prefer, because you may have more than one thing configured. We only have one, so it's only it, quite frankly. So we're going to say, try services.register a Leaf provider, a thing that can handle rendering Leaf to the screen. And then we'll tell it to prefer using a Leaf renderer for any views it has. A view is the Vapor terminology for a template, some HTML to render. So when we say render some HTML, it's going to say, aha, I need to use Leaf for that. So it'll launch the Leaf renderer, it'll find our Leaf files, and it'll make it look good. And the reason this is really helpful is because there are other renderers out there. For example, on Katura, you might use Stencil. And Stencil works in Vapor as well. It's super nice. It's really, really great. I think Kyle Fuller made it. He's a smart guy. Great choice. But you can choose. You know, try a few out, see which one works for you. Vapor happens to be the one the Leaf folks made, so they support it really nicely. It's all documented clearly and so forth. So you might prefer Leaf. Anyway, we're just going to say, when it comes to rendering any sort of view, any HTML coming out the way, we want to use Leaf. That's all we're saying here. So now in our roots file, we have this thing, router.get, make this font a bit bigger, there we go. We have router.get hello, pass in the request that was triggered, so you know, any cookies passed and similar, and it's immediately return the string hello world. That's all it's doing. And I'll say, you know, when you go to /hello on our server, return request, which is fine. We don't want that though, we want a root, which is like a home page, just like /, not /hello, just /. So we're going to have a root, or in American terms, a route. So to do that, we just remove this part here. So it'll match the root, R-O-O-T, the root of our server, localhost :8080/. That will be matched now. There's no hello anymore. Go straight to the root of our server. And we want to do, instead of returning a string like this, we want to render a Leaf template instead. So we're going to do return try req, the request that came in, make a view, and render home, like that. And it'll know it's home.leaf because it'll say, aha, I'm doing a view here. That means a view renderer, and that means to prefer using leaf. Great, it'll do home.leaf with a leaf renderer automatically. If I press build now, it'll have a little think. There we go. I'll press run. So it'll have a little think. Boom, there we go. So it's on 8080 again. Let's head back to Safari. And now if I go to hello, it'll say not found because the hello root no longer exists, which is great. Get rid of the hello, and it should appear as Cupcake Corner, welcome to Cupcake Corner. So it's now finding that HTML we wrote inside Sublime Text, attached to the root, and just took us that one line of code here to render things. So you can go ahead and have as many templates as you like now, it'll render them all really smoothly and simply. Now, obviously, at this point, we just have some fairly simple HTML, right? We haven't got any dynamic content there at all, it's just fixed HTML tags. This can be done trivially. What we want to do really is have a more advanced view with some dynamic content provided by Swift. And it's important to understand the split here. We want our views to not fetch data. So not even understand what data is. Swift does all the work for that. Swift will go ahead and talk databases, open files, who cares what, do all the hard work of assembling data, then pass it off to Leaf and say, here's your finished data, now render it. Now, Leaf has some logic, as we'll see in a second, has some logic for doing things like loops or simple conditions or date formatting and similar. But broadly speaking, you want most of the hard work to happen in your Swift code. So, question from Arvid. Great question from Arvid, in fact. What does it mean to render a request as a view? So why does a request have a view method? Now, what's happening here is you've got to understand the Vapor team have taken an extremely aggressive approach to performance. Extremely aggressive. The whole thing is designed to be non-blocking. What that means is one request can come in, start work, another one come in, start work, another one come in, start work. They all run individually thanks to Swift Neo under the hood. And the way Vapor handles freeing memory, allocating memory, keeping things isolated is ensuring that your requests are attached to the request itself that came in. So, you know, if you imagine a request coming in and saying, okay, here's some work, that is a unique identifier for your entire chunk of work for that person. You'll send back a file, send back a picture, send back a database data, whatever it is. You'll send back something. But the only that request comes in, give it back to the person again. So rather than having like, oh, dispatch async, do some work over here, whatever, you don't do that. You respond to that request directly. And so all the database requests you make, all the views being rendered you make are attached to that request uniquely. So when the request's finished, when it goes away, it gets closed off, boom, all the memory gets freed, it knows it's finished. It doesn't overlap with all sorts of other places. This creates hilarious headaches, as you'll see in about 40 minutes or so, at this rate I'm going. But it does mean it's extremely efficient. I mean, it's very, very fast, Vapor 3, because of this design they've got, attaching all the work to individual requests, as you'll see. Anyway, I want to ditch the static HTML. I want to have dynamic HTML here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our router get thing here, and we're going to make some data. We're going to pass in some custom data to render inside our Leaf template. To do that, though, we have to have some objects to render. So I'll press Command N to make a new Swift file. Brian Bolivar, Future and Promise, you're exactly right. That's exactly where we're going with this, ultimately. Not just yet, though, because that's terrifying. Let's wind it back slowly. Let's bring in the hard stuff bit by bit. I make a new Swift file, and I'm going to call this thing cupcake.swift to represent exactly one cupcake. And I'm going to say this thing is import Vapor, of course. Import Vapor. I'll say this thing here is a struct called cupcake, and it has an ID integer, which is optional, may have an ID, may not have an ID, has a name string, has a description string, and a price int. That's our entire cupcake. Now, what we want to do really is to send cupcakes. Here's a chocolate cupcake for $5, here's a vanilla cupcake for $3, whatever, to Leaf. So Leaf can render these things. And Leaf doesn't understand what a Swift struct is. Doesn't really care what a Swift struct is. What it cares about is that this is some sort of content it can render. And Vapor has a protocol you can conform to called, helpfully, content. And that immediately makes this cupcake type work inside Leaf. We can now make an instance of cupcake and render it using Leaf directly. Say, here Leaf, here's a cupcake. What do you want with it? Question from Lamin, can we use Bootstrap? Yes, of course you can use Bootstrap. Please use Bootstrap. Bootstrap rocks. I love Bootstrap. So there's our cupcake. So back in our root, we're going to make two cupcakes to pass into Leaf. We're going to say let vanilla equals a cupcake. Has the ID number 1. Name is vanilla. Description, we're going to say a plain cupcake. Price $3. And chocolate is a cupcake with ID 2. Name chocolate. Description, a chocolate cupcake. And price $4. Great. Now we have two cupcakes, vanilla and chocolate. We want to pass that thing to Leaf so it can render them inside its HTML. So again, Leaf is not fetching data or figuring any data out. We're giving it the finished data to work with. So we're now going to say return try view render the same home.leaf file, but with a dictionary. And the dictionary's got a key called cupcakes, and the value for that is an array of vanilla, chocolate. So it's a dictionary with a string key and an array of cupcakes as its value, vanilla and chocolate. So it's going to get given a cupcakes key with our two cupcakes inside it. Now you'll see Swift at this point has a hard time figuring out what our closure returns. We can see it returning this thing, but it's confused. We've got to tell it what it's going to return. This is where things get a little bit hazy in Vapor because, again, Vapor's non-blocking. It's designed for extreme performance. It does not want to sit and wait in this method for Leaf to finish work. Because Leaf has to load home.leaf from disk, go through, figure out all the tags, pass it to HTML, output it, and pass it back. That takes time. And in Vapor, time is extremely expensive. You want to have as little time as possible. And so Vapor has a technique, a wonderful system of futures, where you can say, at some point in the future, you're going to have some rendered HTML. Trust me, it's going to happen. Right now, though, it's not ready. So here is where it's going to be when it is ready. It's called a future. And we do that by saying the request comes in, but comes out a future view. So a view is a finished rendered HTML thing from Leaf or from Stencil or from some other platform, but it's not ready yet. It's going to be a future view. It'll be ready at some point in the future. And the nice thing is, we don't care when it's ready. It could take Leaf a nanosecond to render that, or a year to render it. We don't care. We just say, when it's ready, here is where it's going to be. And we let Vapor handle that. It'll say, are you ready yet? Nope. Are you ready yet? Nope. Are you ready yet? Yes. It'll get the result, send it back to the browser automatically. We haven't got to worry about handling these futures. We just say, here you go, Vapor. Here's a future. It'll finish soon, trust me. And leave it to Vapor to figure out what that actually means, which is great. So now we're passing in this dictionary, key cupcakes, value, our array of vanilla and chocolate cupcakes. We're passing that to our Leaf template, which means we can go back to our template and modify this thing so it's no longer static HTML. It's going to be dynamic HTML, showing those two cupcakes on the screen. So after welcome, we're going to say there's an unordered list, a UL. Get it bigger, please. There we go. Unordered list. And we're going to loop over the array of cupcakes. So again, it's a dictionary called cupcakes with an array of our two cupcakes as its value. And to do dynamic code in Leaf, you start a hash symbol and then the Leaf tag name. For us, it's a loop. We'll do for. So we can say for cupcake in cupcakes. And that name is the one that matches the dictionary passed in. The dictionary key is called cupcakes. There it is in Leaf to use. Go over all the items in that cupcakes array. Open brace. I'll add a close brace below it. Tabbed in neatly. There we go. I'll end the UL. because HTML matters. There we go. Boom. Go over every cupcake, add a list item, and inside there, another hash symbol. We'll do cupcake.name. And that name, that's a property name from our cupcake struct in Swift. We made it earlier. This thing here, cupcake name. It'll read that perfectly well straight from a struct. It's really, really nice. So it'll do cupcake name, end the li, so that HTML bounds out nicely. I'll save that template, and then I'll build and run my Swift code again. And all being well, it will now send our new route across with our new 2 cupcakes. That port's working great. I refresh. Oops, refresh the wrong thing. refresh the chat window there. There we go. Welcome to Potato Corner, vanilla and chocolate. So you can see the leaf template's now getting live values from the Swift code based on whatever we pass in. And we've obviously hard-coded 2 cupcakes there. But there's so much work happening here. We haven't had to explain to Vapor at all how to make this cupcake struct work. We just say it's content. And as long as it handles codable stuff well, if it's encodable and decodable properly, that'll be fine. It will work with integers, strings, dates, and more for that single type. So you can see we now have the server, we now have HTML rendering, and we now have dynamic content being passed in from our Swift code to our HTML code. And that deserves a sip of my wine. Sorry. Oh, that's good. Before you ask, it's a Malbec. Everyone asks every week, it's a Malbec. It nearly always is. Nearly always. Anyway, what we have now is we have hard-coded our cupcakes, right? Which isn't great. We don't want that. We've had to type them in by hand in Swift code, which is rubbish. We want to actually have dynamic things inside there. We want to have administrators can go in and add cupcakes to the list using a little HTML form. So we're going to modify our HTML back in Sublime. After this list of cupcakes, we're going to say, make some space. There we go. Boom. We're going to say h2 add new cupcake. nh2. I will do form method equals post, action equals /add. So we're saying when this form's submitted, go to the URL localhost 8080/add. It's not exist yet, by the way, but that's okay. We'll add some form fields. We're going to say, make some space. I'm going to say p. Name is input type equals text. Name equals name. And that, end the p. And then description is going to be input type equals text. Name equals name. No, sorry, name equals description, sorry. And that, end the p. Boom. And then the price is input type equals number. Name equals price. End that, end the p. And button type equals submit. I'll call this thing add, end the button. And finally, end the form. Okay. So just enough HTML to get us by. This is going to show HTML form, which sends data using post. If you haven't used HTML before, there are 2 main kinds of method. One is get for reading things. One is post for changing things. So posting data, we can hit the URL /add on our server, which does not exist yet. Again, we'll write that shortly. There are 3 HTML fields called name, description, and price. I've called these things name, description, and price to avoid problems. They're all text apart from the last one, which is a number, so it'll have a little number field instead. And finally, a big submit button saying add. That's our entire form. I'll press save, head back to Safari, and reload the right window this time. Boom. Add new cupcake. I'll say there's a lemonade cupcake. Obviously, it's lemony. Price is 5, and press add. And what you'll see is error true, reason not found. This is because, again, we're saying to this thing, go to /add when the form's submitted. This is this action here, action /add. We haven't written that code yet. So it's going to hit a route that does not exist. Question from Jeepalook. No, Leaf script language is not just Swift with a hash for every line. It is unique unique Leaf language. It is documented on the Vapor documentation. I helped write a chunk of that documentation, so I can show you it's very good. So go and check that out. It's unique, and there aren't many tags you can use, to be honest with you. It's conditions and loops and some formatting stuff and similar, but it's not Swift. It's really not Swift. Anyway, so let's hit /add, which is not written yet, which is why it's erroring out. So we're going to write that route out now in xcode. We're going to say, not router.get, but router.post. When someone provides a value using the post method rather than the get method. Now, Vapor has some really good helper functions, and one of them is you can ask a post to happen with a particular data type behind it. If someone tries to post a user or tries to post a cupcake or similar, you can grab that here, and it'll do all the work of making that into an object for you. So I can say router.post followed by cupcake.self at add. Add being the URL part, cupcake.self being whatever we expect to receive. We expect to receive a cupcake in this post. And inside here we'll do req cupcake in. We're going to get a cupcake in from here. So it'll pass the request, again, the page you requested and cookies or whatever, but also the decoded thing that you got back. It'll say, and here's your cupcake ready to go. What we're going to do is we're going to do return cupcake. Just send it back straight away. Don't do any extra work with it right now. Just send it back. And because we made our cupcake struct, this thing here, conform to the content protocol, Vapor can send that back over the wire as JSON. And now, if we build and run again, boom, head back to here. I'm going to resubmit the form. Press yes. You'll now see it's coming back with name lemonade, price 5, description it's lemony, as JSON. So it's received the form correctly, said, yep, I've got a good cupcake here, sending that cupcake object back over the wire as JSON to be rendered inside the screen. So we've now got communication working in both ways here. We receive data, sending it back to the client again. Now what we want to do, of course, is to store that somewhere special, stick it away somewhere, so we have the ability to save the cupcakes we make. There are lots of ways you could do this. You could save it as, a file locally and similar. Broadly speaking, on the web, databases are preferred, not always, but commonly. So we can store some databases is a good idea. And fortunately, magically, Vapor has an extraordinarily advanced database system behind it that can read and write data from a variety of sources in almost no code. I mean, it's astonishingly well-written software. So we're going to use that here because I want you to see exactly how easy it is to make database system calls with this thing here. Question from Venkat, why are not in a future here? So at this point, Venkat, all we're doing is just sending the data back. What happens is when we use this helper method here, I expect to receive a cupcake at add. This closure will not be called until Vapor has decoded the JSON for our cupcake, or decoded the HTML form, for our cupcake. So it's not blocking. It'll do its own work over here, somewhere else doing work, whatever, and only when it's finished doing its work, it'll pass it to us, and then we're in our closure. So there's no feature required here just yet. You're right, if you do a database call, it takes longer. There's no database code yet, so there's no future code yet. We'll get on to it. Relax, chill out. There's time. There's loads of time. We're only like, 3/4 of an hour already. Anyway, our server is now getting data. We want to stick it away somewhere safe. We want to use this system Vapor has using databases, which is amazing. I love it. It's called Fluent. And it's separate to Vapor, separate to Leaf. So in package Swift, we're going to add a new line here. We have this one here doing Vapor. We have one here doing Leaf. So that's main engine and HTML rendering. We're going to add a new one now. I'll copy and paste that line. And this is going to do Vapor / Fluent SQLite.git. David, great question. End of the talk, please. Otherwise, I'll be distracted too much. So please give me the Fluent SQLite. Now, SQLite is one of many databases in the world. There's MySQL, there's Postgres, there's Mongo, and similar. There's lots of them out there. SQLite is just one of them. It's a particularly good one to choose when you're learning because it saves it as a local file. So you can test these things out really quickly, really easily. And the nice thing is, as you'll see, we don't write code to talk to SQLite. We write code to talk to Fluent, and Fluent figures out what that means for SQLite. So we haven't got to tie ourselves down to one database. We can switch across to Mongo or Postgres, whatever in the future, very easily. That's the magic of Fluent. Anyway, give me the Fluent SQLite repo, please. 300 is fine. We have to add that to our dependency list. We have Vapor, we have Leaf. We're now going to add comma, Fluent SQLite. So give me all three of those things. Now again, I want to get out of xcode. I'll quit xcode now. And in terminal, I'll run the command again, vapor build. So it'll realize it has not got the full set of dependencies anymore. It's missing the SQLite stuff for Fluent. It'll fetch that now, rebuild the project. We can go to xcode again and carry on work. It's thinking now. I can have a drink for a change. It's great. I should say here, xcode is entirely optional. You can use vapor build, vapor run for the command line, vapor fetch. Skip xcode if you don't want to use xcode. Use app code, use Sublime Text. Doesn't matter what you use. Use Linux. There are lots of options. You don't have to use xcode. Anyway, that's done. Let's go back to xcode again. Okay, so now all being well, we should now see, yep, on the side here, you'll see we have all our same dependencies, but now also Fluent and SQLite and Fluent SQLite, tying them all together. So we can now start using that to build database stuff easily. So we're going to go to cupcake.swift. What we want to do is tell the system that this thing is actually a database model to work with. And that's actually one more protocol in Fluent, helpfully. But also, we have to add another protocol to do migrations. And migrations are like setup code. Like when you first run your app, you can say, okay, database, give me all the cupcakes, please. It has no idea what cupcakes are. It hasn't got a database prepared for cupcakes. That's what migration is. Migration is saying, oh, there are no cupcakes. Make the structure required to store cupcakes. Make database tables required to store cupcakes. So that's migration. And we can do both of those things using Fluent. So I'm going to add an import, in cupcake.swift, import here for Fluent SQLite. And I'm going to say this thing is content, great, so we can read it and send it back again, content. But I'm also going to say it is an SQLite model and has a migration. Like that. Now this thing, that's the only bit tying it to SQLite. You can replace that with another protocol entirely from Postgres or Mongo, and it will switch across. There's no other SQLite code in here. It's super light. I'm going to make no other changes to this file. That's it. I'm going to say it's an SQLite model, and please migrate it. That's that thing updated. Now what I want to do is go ahead and go to configure.swift, where we configure our stuff. And right now we have launch the router we have, prepare to do leaf template rendering and so forth. We want to modify this to say, also have an SQLite database. So we can have work being saved somewhere. So I'm going to add two new imports at the top here. Import Fluent and import Fluent SQLite. I should say, if you are curious, SQLite is pronounced like it's a mineral, officially. And I've met the creator, D. Richard Hipp, and it's pronounced like a SQLite, as in his head, like it's like kryptonite, SQLite. So if you want to be, well, actually, somewhatly, please don't, but that's your chance there. SQLite is the correct pronunciation, not SQLite or some other hideous pronunciations. Anyway, so we got to add those two imports. We now have to prepare to have a database somewhere. Now, what you don't want to do is say, please use /users/2straws/desktop/cupcakes.db or whatever. That ties it to one place. Because you might push your code from here to Linux or to a Mac somewhere using Mac Stadium or whatever. You don't want to tie it down to one place. What you want to do really is use a relative URL. You want to say, find out where our working directory is and use that for where we store our database. And there's a bit of code for that, but it's not terribly hard. We say let directory config equals a new directory config dot detect. So it'll figure out the current directory where your Vapor system is running from right now. No matter where you are in the world, what system you're on, what platform you're on, that will find out where you actually are. And we're going to register that thing, services.register directory config. Now the reason we do this is because other parts of Vapor are also going to want to find out where we are in the system later on in the call stack, I mean some routes, whatever. There's no point repeating that work. We can say we've done it once automatically when we launch the server. Don't do it again, just reuse the one we made. So put it into the services system to file it away for later on. So that's going to figure out where we are and share it with the rest of our Vapor server. Next we want to say try services.register a fluent SQLite provider. That will create a new one, again, stash it away to say I'm going to use Fluent at some point. Prepare for it to be used now. And it will do that once and share it everywhere. This is not creating databases or even handling individual queries or anything. It's just saying at some point I expect to use Fluent. Be prepared for that situation happening. So it's sort of giving it some advance notice. Now for the important part. We want to create a database configuration. We want to say, okay, we could store this thing in memory, which is very fast, but gets removed once you kill your app. Or you can put it into a file somewhere. Where is that file? And similar. So we're going to create a configuration for our database to say where this thing's going to be. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. Some things can fail. And in this case, it's telling us very clearly that router thing will never fail because it's Vapor's own thing. Our thing, our exact directory config could fail, could be invalid, who knows what. That's Vapor's problem, not ours, Greg. What you will see, though, is that Vapor uses try extensively. Like most things throw in Vapor. So get used to using try a lot. Don't catch it. Don't worry about catching it. Just try it when you do it, and it'll be caught somewhere else if it goes wrong. Anyway, we want to say there's a file somewhere we want to save our stuff to. So I'm going to say there's a new database config, which is a new databases config. Boom. And this thing is going to be an instance of an SQLite database at a particular file. This is where it gets concrete now. We're saying at this exact location is a file called cupcakes.db where our actual data is going to be stored. So we're going to say let db equals try SQLite database. For storage, I'm going to say there's only two options, memory or file. It is telling you memory is extremely fast, great for testing. It goes away as soon as you kill your app because it's in memory only, right? The better version for permanent storage is a file where you can have an actual directory somewhere on your Mac or on Linux, so an actual database file that we used again and again and again between application runs. So we're going to say it's a file. And for the path string, we're going to use string interpolation to get our directory config dot workdir. So wherever our working directory is for our Vapor project, save it there, please. And append cupcakes.db. So put that on the end. So it'll be /user/2straws/desktop/cupcake corner cupcakes.db on my Mac. But if I deploy that to Linux, it'll be somewhere else entirely. Deploy it to Heroku, wherever. It'll be somewhere else every single time. So having a nice generic working directory is a better idea. It'll figure out somewhere safe to put it no matter what. So that'll take us to a path. Thread pull we can ignore. It's not required. It can be nil by default. We then want to stash that away. We want to say database config dot add that database db for the identifier SQLite. What that means is whenever I say SQLite in the future, I mean our database here. Should be database, sorry, database. Boom. So rather than saying go yes, open up users 2 straws whatever again and again and again, use it once and never again. It is whinging. Why are you whinging at me? Oh, I made a mistake somewhere. Database is as. Oh yeah, sorry, as SQLite. There we go. As SQLite. Boom. So in the future, we'll just say, hey SQLite, do this thing, as opposed to, hey users 2 straws desktop cupcake corner cupcakes DB, do this thing. We open it once. We just say that is SQLite from now on. It's a little name, like a variable name almost, to attach that thing to our database configuration, which is great. And we will add that to the list of Vapor services. Services.register that database config. So in the future, whenever we say SQLite, it'll know, aha, that's where it is, Cupcakes DB, brilliant. That gives us access to a database. It does not handle migrations. Migrations are separate in Vapor. It's not very hard. We say there's a new migration config, boom. And we'll tell this thing to add any of our data types we want as database tables. So we're going to do migration add the model cupcake.self. Please make this cupcake struct into a database table. And it'll do that. It'll say, okay, well, it's got an ID, a name, a description, and a price. That means in SQLite making these things in the actual file. The database, this is where that helpful handler, the helpful identifier comes in. We can now just say .SQLite, the one I've already made. And it'll go, okay, that means cupcakes DB and uses two-store test up, so forth. It'll figure it out. But we can now just say .SQLite in the thing we made earlier as SQLite. And finally, we'll add that to our services register, migration config, boom. So this creates a database access we can read and write to. This thing tells it to create a database for our cupcakes. That is all it requires to get up and running. What matters now, realistically, is actually handling that form. Because our form here calls add, passes in name, description, and price, which happens to exactly match, if you remember, our cupcakes, name, description, and price. The optional thing doesn't matter. So it matches those three things exactly. So now in our root, which is this root.swift thing, we're saying, okay, when we add a cupcake, no longer just return the cupcake, save it to disk. Save it into our database immediately. So to do this requires another feature, I'm afraid. What we're going to say is req cupcake in, so the request that was made, any cupcake that was decoded from here, we're going to return a future response. Now, a response is a HTTP thing. You can say redirect to this page, for example, do some work here. And that's a HTTP thing. So we can use that to redirect them once it's saved to our database. Now, again, it's a future, which means don't redirect just yet. Redirect soon. Who knows when? Soon. We don't really care when. That's a Vapor to figure out. So in here, we're going to say, this is our cupcake right here, return cupcake.save. Now, this thing has to know what resource it can attach this thing to. And again, thanks to the way that Vapor works, we attach to the request, which means it lives for the life of our request only. So when that request goes away, it'll flush out all database calls behind it. We attach a save to the request like that. But there's a problem. This thing, this type here, let me equals this. This returns a event loop future cupcake. That's a future cupcake. The event loop future thing is a Swift Neo thing, ignore that. It means a future cupcake. It's going to say at some point, I will have finished saving the cupcake. That's what it's saying. It's saying, yes, at some point, the cupcake will save to disk, and that'll be great. What we want to do really, though, when we add a cupcake, save it, then send the user back to the home page. Because they're on /add right now, adding a cupcake. They want to go back to the home page to say, boom, it's done. I want to see my new cupcake. So when we have return cupcake save on, we want to say when that work has finished, when it has saved the database fully, then do some other work. So we want to attach some work to happen later on. And in Vapor, that's done with a call to .map. Map. Just like in Swift optionals and Swift arrays and similar, you can map a future. You can say, when this future completes, please do this other work. But you have to tell Vapor now, clearly, what the other work will return. This changed in like one of the earlier Vapor 3 betas. They used to have Swift figure it out. Look at the return of the map to figure out what was being returned. They changed it because too often Swift would have problems. It just couldn't handle a closure mess. So that we now explicitly say this thing's going to return some sort of finished product. In our case, it's going to return a response, which is some sort of HTTP response, some sort of web response saying, okay, that's finished, now do this thing. So inside the map, we'll be given one parameter, which is a cupcake, our finished, saved, completed cupcake, now safe in our database, we can now return some sort of response. So I'm going to do return req dot redirect. So redirect the user to somewhere else. And see it returns a response exactly what we want. We'll redirect to / our homepage. So they've gone to the form, they've pressed submit, they go to /add, it comes to our server, decodes that into an object of cupcake, save that to the database, and when that work finishes, it'll send them back to / the homepage. I'll press build, and press run, and this will kind of work. I say kind of for a reason, as you'll see. It's running now, I think, almost. There we go, running, okay. It'll kind of work, as you'll see. Oops, got that an error here, is it all good? Yeah, it's good, all work great. So I'll go ahead and go to the homepage, again, boom, and a cupcake, we're going to say this thing is a strawberry cupcake. It's strawberry flavored, has a price of 4, and add. And here we are, it's going back to the add new cupcake screen again. Now, as you can see, I'm back on the homepage, great, so it's redirected us correctly, but we're not seeing the strawberry cupcake. We've got vanilla and chocolate still. And the reason for that is, hopefully you figure out, we have our home route, our root route, has vanilla and chocolate hard-coded. So even though our database has probably worked, can't tell, it hasn't actually worked because you can't see the things. So it's saving it, but we're not viewing it back. What you really want to do, instead of hard-coding these things, vanilla and chocolate and similar, we want to say, here is a request to a database. Please give me all the cupcakes saved from the admin and send that back. So it's dynamic rather than static. So I'm going to scrap, let's just scrap those for now. I'm going to say instead, return cupcake.query. This will say make a data request, load some data from the database. It'll ask it where I can store this, where this RAM will be allocated to, where it will be assigned to. And I'm going to say assign this to our request. That's the whole performance thing again. It works in our individual request. It won't bleed into other requests. It's attached just to us. Query the cupcake table for all cupcakes we have. At this point, we're just going to say we want all of them. We're not going to filter it. We're not going to sort it. Just give me all the cupcakes. So I'm going to say .all. And you'll see this returns a future array of cupcake. And it'll say, which means at some point in the future, we don't really care when, SQLite will have finished loading that array of cupcakes from us, and we can start using it. Of course, we want to actually pass that array into Leaf. So Leaf can render the array to the screen. And here's where things tend to sort of blow your mind a little bit. What we want to do really is say we have a database thing that will finish at some point. You know, go to SQLite, find our cupcakes, read them all back, That will finish at some point. That's a future right there. But if you remember, the Leaf template rendering is also a future. So we have a future and we have a future. We have a future. This thing, fetch all the cupcakes. That'll take time. Then when that's finished, give that to another future to render the Leaf template with its data. That'll take time as well. So a future followed by another future. Now, if you ever got into optional hell in Swift, where it's like int question mark, or even 3 question marks or worse, the solution here is called flat map. Flat map will say, if my future returns a future, coalesce it into one big future. So rather than saying future view, it'll be just future view. It'll collapse them all into a single future. In optional territory, if you have optional integers, it means there might be an integer, there might not be. If you have an optional integer, it means you've got a big mess in your hands. It means the optional inside it might be there, might not be there. And the integer inside that might be there or might not be there. So it's really, really messy and really just hurts your head trying to think about it. And the same is true of futures. If you have future view, you don't want that. It's too hard to work with. You want to collapse it down to one simple thing. You want to say for an optional, either the whole thing's there or the whole thing isn't there. And the future, when the whole thing finishes or the whole thing doesn't finish, you collapse all the futures down to a single future. Much nicer way of working. To do that, we have to use flat map rather than map. So we're going to say .all.flatMap. Now, just like map, we've got to tell it what we're converting to. And this is going to be a leaf view, a rendered leaf page. Now, this will be a future, of course, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be a leaf view ultimately. This takes a closure at second parameter. Will be passed our array of cupcakes that was loaded from disk. This is actually finished loading now. It's loaded from disk fully. We can start using it completely. Inside there, we can use our leaf line. We'll do return try req.view.render home cupcakes, and then our array of cupcakes, like that. So it'll start running this query. That will finish at some point. Could be really fast, could be really slow. We don't care. We're saying when that finishes, run this inner code to pass that array of cupcakes to leaf. And again, we don't care when that finishes. It'll happen at some point in the future. And we just pass that whole thing, a future view, back to Vapor to figure out, and it will do it. It'll just figure it out. So I'll press Command R again. It'll have a little think. Where am I? Sorry. Wrong folder. Oh, there's a database, by the way. It's all working nicely. Kevin Romero, DB files to desktop. No, it's right there. It's in the cupcake corner directory. That's like code we're writing, that's what it's for. Anyway, back in here again. Let's go to this page, refresh it, boom. Strawberry cupcake now appears, being loaded back from the database correctly from our form. Let's add one more. Was it a lemonade cupcake I had? A cupcake. It's lemony, and price is going to be, I don't know, 7. Add. Boom, it appears straight away. So that's the power of things. It's going to go to /add, do that work, send them back to the home page only when that work's finished. And we have that flat map now fetching data. And when that finishes, render a template. And when that finishes, pass it off to the user as rendered HTML. Whew, okay, it is now 7:10. Okay, require some more wine. It's going to be a long one, folks. I apologize. We're being brave here, right? We're doing some exciting stuff. Anyway, at this point, I'm going to pause the Vapor work and go over to iOS. I want to start doing some iOS work here so we can actually see this stuff appearing from our local host. I'll press Command-Shift-N, make a new project. I'll choose a new iOS single view app, press Next. This thing's going to be called iOS Cupcakes. Next, and create my desktop. This thing is going to show the cupcakes. Really simple. So we're going to go ahead into our view controller Swift file, ditch the view controller, make a table view controller instead, like usual. And then main.storyboard. Scrap that view controller. Boom. And have a table view controller instead, like that. Lovely. We're going to make that thing our initial view controller, of course. Like that. And put it inside a navigation controller. So embed in nav controller. Lovely. That's very kind. Thanks, R. Erickson. For this prototype cells here. Oh, so I have to get the class name first. This class should be our view controller. For our prototype cell, we're going to use subtitle style. So we can show cupcake name and description and price all in one sort of thing. And we'll say it has an identifier of cell, because I'm lazy like that on live streams. Anyway, so that is our layout. That's it. We're not doing anything fancy here. That's good enough here. Back in our code, though, we're going to have to add something here to store cupcakes. Now, there are lots of ways of sharing code between Vapor and Swift, or Katura and Swift, iOS, sorry. I'm not using that here. It's a live stream. I'll go through it as fast as I can. I'll make a new struct here in my iOS project, which is called cupcake.swift. And this is going to basically mirror the Vapor one with a small difference. Var cupcake is codable. We're not using content anymore. Content's a Vapor thing, meaning it can be JSON or not. Oh, not var, sorry, struct. Codable, of course, is an iOS native thing, a Swift native thing. So it means this thing is codable. It has an ID integer, no longer optional. A name string, a description string, and a price int. That's our cupcakes. And in view controller Swift, we'll have an array of these things to show on the screen. We're going to say var cupcake equals an array of cupcake. I'm going to write one big method to fetch the data from our server and pass it into cupcake objects and show it on the screen. There's basically one big method called fetch data. So down here, we're going to say func fetch data. The URL we're going to load is a URL with the string http:// localhost :8080 / cupcakes. A route we have not written yet. It won't work just yet. It'll work soon. I'm happily going to force unwrap that. I've hand typed it. I know it's safe. We're then going to pass that off to URL session.share.datatask. So we can start making the request. Our URL is that URL. This will be passed in the data, the response, and any error that happened. I will immediately call resume, because let's face it, we always forget that thing, so I'll do it now while I still remember. So make that request and get some data back. I'm going to say guard let data is data else. If we fail to get anything back from the data, bad thing, it's all gone wrong. We're just going to print out error.localize description, nil coalescing, unknown error. That, and return. So if for some reason the request failed, which it can't here, it's local, but if it did fail, just print out that it failed. If it worked though, we want to start using it. So we'll say let decoder equals a JSON decoder. So we can get it from JSON, which is what it'll be served up from Vapor as to us. We're going to say if we can get a cakes array from that by doing try decoder.decode an array of cupcake.self from that data. So if we successfully got an array of cupcakes from that JSON we got from the server, brilliant. We want to push that back to the main thread now so we know it's safe to touch our UI. We'll do dispatch queue dot main dot async. Self.cupcakes is those cakes. Self.tableview dot reload data. And then print loaded cakes.count cupcakes. So just make it clear we've got some cupcakes back from the system. If that failed, if we got back bad JSON, I'm just going to print out unable to parse JSON response. Obviously, something slightly more robust in your own code would be a good idea. You could fill it in later on if you want to. Of course, we've got call fetch data in our view load. So we'll do fetch data. Boom. Fantastic. And I'll press Command R to build and run that. And it's going to fail, but that's okay. As you'll see, it's going to fail for an important reason. Boom. So it's whinging at us because of app transport security. It's blocked a clear text HTTP resource load because it's not secure. This is, of course, a good thing. You want to have all your remote requests using HTTPS. Of course you do. Anything real should use HTTPS. This is local, just testing. So it's very, very common to say, actually, just let me have this one, please, iOS. Just bypass that. If you do add what we're doing now, an exception for ATS, you've got to explain yourself to app review. They're going to ask you, why are you bypassing app transport security? So be prepared to explain yourself. And if it's not a good reason, they'll just turn down your app. Or at least do anyway. Anyway, we're going to bypass ATS as the short version. So open info plist. I'm going to add a new row in here called app transport security settings. And this is the dictionary of stuff. And if you add these things, you can add exception domains. And realistically, this is the right way of doing it. You want to say except this domain and this domain and this domain and so forth to have custom exceptions for specific domains if you absolutely have to. It's not a good idea though. You absolutely have to, that's how you do it. Here though, because I'm going way over, I'm going to shortcut it slightly. I'll just do allows all arbitrary loads. I think last week I did a custom one. You can have just localhost, but this time I'll just say allow all arbitrary loads. I'll say that is true. So just let them all work basically. And now we can try running that again, hopefully. It'll fail, but at least it'll fail in a different way, all being well. Okay, so ATS is no longer whinging, which is great. But we're now seeing unable to parse JSON response. And the reason for that is because we're fetching this root /cupcakes that we have not written yet. So you don't want that. Bad idea. Great tip there from iKendak. So we have to add this extra root here called /cupcakes to fetch all the cupcakes from our database and send them back as JSON. So in our Vapor project, I'll be bouncing between iOS and Vapor now, so I'll just use like command backtick, I guess, command tilde, whichever one it is, between the two. I'm going to Vapor again now. So here's our get, here's our post. I'm going to add a new one in here. I'm going to say router.get on that cupcakes root. So when they ask for /cupcakes, we're going to get in the request, of course. We're going to pass back a future when it finishes, which contains an array of cupcakes. So we're going to load all our cupcakes from disk and send back that whole array, just a pure Swift array, inside a future to Vapor to figure out what that actually means. And to do that, to go to SQLite, get all our cupcakes up, send them back as JSON to the client, takes one line of code. It's ridiculous. You write return cupcake.query on the request .all. That's it. That will tell you, give me all the cupcakes, please. That's it. That's all the code it takes. Absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to build and run Vapor again. Make sure now you build and run Vapor first and then build and run iOS. They stay sort of in sync with each other. I press Command R in my Vapor xcode. It'll launch on 8080 again with a new code. Back to the iOS project. I press Command R there to build and run in iOS land. We should now see, boom, loaded 2 cupcakes. So it's now getting the JSON correctly back from Vapor. It isn't seeing it yet, of course, I haven't done that code yet. But you can at least see it's now loading 2 cupcakes correctly from our server, which is great. So, watching the time very carefully, let's add some table view methods in here. We're going to say number of rows in section, return cupcakes.count. So 1 row of every cupcake we have. Then cell for row at, we're going to say let cell equals table view dot dq reusable cell. We called our thing cell for the index path. We'll pull up the matching cake for that. We'll say let cake equals cupcakes matching index path dot row. Now we'll add that's very kind. Thank you very much, Joshua. Now we're going to add our cupcake's name and price to our text label, the top label in our cell, and the description of the cupcake to the bottom label, the subtitle. We're going to say cell.textLabel, .text equals string interpolation, cake.name, dash, $, string interpolation, cake.price, and cell.detailTextLabel, .text equals cake.description, like that. Show both those things. And finally, return that cell, like that. Now, hopefully, if I build and run the code again, the errors will go away magically. Yes, they do. Great. Command R, build and run again. We should now see some cupcakes. Boom, there we go. Strawberry cupcake is strawberry flavored and lemon cupcake. It is lemon flavored. So it's now sort of seeing some actual meaningful data in our simulator, which is great. It's coming together. You'll see actually it says strawberry first, then lemonade. It's not great user experience. You want things to be sorted. Let's do that now. Back in our Vapor project, we're going to say, rather than doing cupcake query on request.all, we're going to say, get all of them, yes, but sort them as well. So before the .all, we're going to say .sort. And this takes one parameter. What field do you want to sort on? The ID, the name, the description, the price, whatever you want to do. I'm going to use \.name. .all. Now this is a Swift key path. That's referring to cupcake.name, the property, which means it'll go through every item in our array. I'm not sure, Daryl. It definitely exists. I'm using it here, and you can go and see it GitHub if you like. I would check that one more carefully. So that will sort by the name. So it'll put lemon before strawberry. If you have .description or whatever you want to, it'll just fill them in here correctly from that thing we have, description, ID, name, and price. I'm using name here. If I run it again, this time when it serves as a JSON for our cupcakes route, we're going to get back lemon before strawberry because it sorted it alphabetically, which is great. Cool, great. That is now 20 past 7. I am going as fast as I possibly can. I realise I try and keep it about the sort of time I finish. It's down to you in the chat window. Would you like some more vapor? Have you had enough vapor? Would you like asking questions instead? Decide now, chat window, more vapor or enough vapor. Let me know. Cast your vote now. While I drink some wine and catch my breath. I'm also going to show you these cool things. Check these out. Look at this. Swift over coffee. Great podcast to listen to. Great sticker, that one. And also I have over here the gorgeous Hacking with Swift stickers. That way around. Oops, Daisy. There we go. Where is he? It's so hard, but it's reversed. There we go. They're there to look at as well. They're fantastic stickers. You can go get those. Yes. Love them. Anyway. More Ripper. More. Great. Okay. Let's do more. Hey, if I'm going to do more work for you folks, you're going to do some more work for me. Go, take 10 seconds out of your life and click that like button for this video and give it my evening just for you. Please like this video. It does help folks discover my videos more easily. If you like the video, leave a comment saying it's possible and great. So please like a video. Great. Thank you very much. Anyway, let's send some communication back the other way. Let's have iOS talking back to the database. So what we're going to say is they can order a lemonade cupcake or order a strawberry cupcake for themselves to have, and that'll go back to Vapor, and it'll store it away so the admin can say, aha, there's an order come in for Josh for a strawberry cupcake or for Paul for another cupcake, whatever it is. They can see orders coming in. So we have nice two-way communication happening here. That's our goal. So what we're going to do is, in our iOS project, I'm going to press Command-N, make a new Swift file, and I'm going to call this thing order.swift. And I'll make that. And an order for me is going to be a struct of two things. First, it's codable. It's going to be a struct of the cake name they want to buy. I want a vanilla. I want a chocolate. I want a lemonade, whatever it is. Cake name I want to buy. Backed up by the buyer name. So there's a lemonade for Paul Hudson, a chocolate for Josh Adams, or whatever. Have it all in here really clearly so folks can see what's ordered and who's going to collect it from the Cupcake Corner store in a few minutes, right? That's the goal. And we're going to do this in the simplest possible way. This is not an iOS week, it's a general Swift week. I don't want to get into iOS territory here too much. We're going to keep it as simple as possible. What we're going to say is, in view control at Swift, when they tap on a cupcake, we'll show an alert control with a text field in saying, enter your name. And if they can choose, order from there, it'll send that off to the server at that point. So we're going to have, below self-row@, add a new method called didSelectRow@. So I tap on a table view row, what do you want to happen? First we're going to figure out what cake they tap. We'll do let cake equals cupcakes index path.row. So I tap on a vanilla or a strawberry or a lemonade, whatever it is. I'm going to show immediately a UI alert controller with, do you really want to order this and what's your name? So we'll say let AC equals a UI alert controller with the title being order a string interpolation cake.name, then a question mark. Do you really want to order this thing? If so, the message is going to be please enter your name. Preferred style is .alert. We're going to do ac.add text field. So we add an empty UI text field to the alert. If you've been following along in the 100 Days of Swift, this should be old news to you now, which is fantastic. We're then going to add an action saying, yes, order this thing now, which will read out that text field's value and call an order method to place that order for that cupcake name and that person's name. We haven't written that method yet, but you get the point. So we'll do ac.addAction, a UI alert action. Title is going to be order it, exclamation mark. Style is .default. And the handler, if they choose this thing, has to have the action coming in. We'll start by reading out the buyer's name. Did they enter a name in that text field or not? We'll do guard let name equals ac.textfields question mark 0.text else return. So bailout. Couldn't be the text field, just get out immediately. That should always work. We add a text field by hand, but there's no harm being sure, right? And if that succeeds, then we'll call an order method. We haven't written this yet, but you get the idea. We'll say self.order cake with a buyer name, name. End that parens. We'll add a cancel button so they can bail out they chose the wrong cupcake. We'll do ac.add action, a UI alert action with a title cancel. Style is .cancel. Handler is nil, which means just to get rid of the alert when this is tapped. And finally, present that alert controller animated true. So it'll pop in. Arvid, I am running xcode 10.2, and it's possible that's the difference in the code completion. We did a thing, I think yesterday's 100 Days of Swift had a call to ns layout constraint to activate with an array of constraints. And 10.1 often chokes with that. 10.2 is like, yep, fine, and it just worked. So maybe it's a Swift 5 change. Anyway, so that's going to show the alert, ask them for a name. If it works, they'll pull out their name and call this order method to place an order with a cake name and the buyer name. Let's write that method now. We'll say func order, oops, sorry, no parenthesis there, func order, some sort of cupcake, with the buyer name string. We'll wrap that in an order object, so we can send that to our server. We'll say let order equals an order with the cake name, cake.name, vanilla, strawberry, lemon, whatever it is. Buyer name is just name. We'll send it off to a URL, which is URL string http:// localhost:8080/order. Again, not written yet, but that's okay. And I'll force unwrap that because I've hand typed it. I know it's safe. We have to encode our object. So it goes as JSON to be sent over the wire. Otherwise, it'd be like, what's a struct? I don't know what a struct is. I've got to encode it by hand. Sadly, Vapor is better at this than Foundation is, sadly. Anyway, let encoder equals a JSON encoder. Boom. We then put that data into an instance of a URL request, which is a Foundation way of handling complex data being sent over the web. What kind of HTTP method it is, what data you're attaching, and similar. So I'll say var request equals a URL request with the URL of our URL. Then request.http method equals post. So we're writing data to the server. Remember, get, reads, post, writes. There's one more, but those two are the main two, basically. So we're doing a post request here. We're going to say request.setValue. And this one really matters because by default, the web works as text. Text coming in, text coming out. You've got to attach it a content type saying, this is HTML, this is XML, this is RSS, this is JSON, this is whatever, to tell it to expect to receive different kinds of data coming in and coming out. In our case, we want to say, what we're sending you isn't text. It looks like text, it's actually JSON, which Vapor should look for and decode into objects on the other side. So we'll say set value application/JSON for header field content dash type. So we're making it quite clear this thing looks like text. It's actually going to be JSON. It's got meaning behind it beyond just text. And that is the content type header field. We'll then say request.http body. The thing we're sending across with the request is going to be try ? encoder.encode our order. Try and send it over the wire. Manuel, you probably could do that. He's asking, why don't you use a cupcake instead of the var? You can do what you like. I mean, it's your call. This is simpler for teaching methods, and we are way over, so I'm keeping it as simple as possible. Anyway, so that will configure our full request. Hit this URL. It's a post request. We're changing data. It's not plain text, it's JSON. And here is our encoded order ready to go. The last thing to do is send it over the wire by saying URL session.shared.data task with that URL request. Boom. And we'll get back inside here the data, the response, and the error, just like before. I will again immediately call resume, so don't forget that, because that'd be very embarrassing on a live stream. And immediately we'll say, okay, when this finishes, did we get any data back or not? We'll say if let data equals data, let decoder equals a JSON decoder, if let item equals try decoder.decode order.self from data. So sending it over the wire, we expect to get an order back from the wire. This will be ideally the same thing coming back to say, yes, it's all worked. Because it might say, oops, out of stock, or some other values in that order. Sending it back is a nice confirmation of saying, yes, everything's worked. If it worked, we'll then print out item.buyerName, just so we can see that it's worked. If it failed, we'll do print, open brace, print, bad JSON received back. Now, of course, in your own code, you might make this thing decode an order confirmation object, which has got more data or less data, like, expect it in 5 minutes. It's your code, you can do what you like. Then we call resume on that end, which is great. That's the iOS part done. I'm going to command backtick command tilde over to xcode in the Vapor project. We have the cupcake type here. We have not got an order type here. It doesn't know what orders are yet. So we'll make that now. I'll press Command N and use Swift file. Choose order.swift. We want to import here Fluent SQLite and Vapor. There we go. So this is our order type in Vaporland. This is very similar. It has to have an identifying integer or UUID that identifies the thing globally uniquely. So this is a database thing, so we can say, yes, that's my order there, ID number 69, whatever it is, there. It's also going to have that SQLite thing and a migration attached to it. So we'll do struct order, its content, and SQLite model, and a migration. Has the same 3 fields, same 2 fields, sorry, plus the bonus ID field. So we'll say var ID int, a unique identifier for that order number in the system. Has a cake name, string, has a buyer name, string, and we're going to add one more here to make things a bit more interesting. We're going to say, when did the order come in? We're going to say var date is an optional date. And it needs to be optional here because it won't be set when it comes in from the client. They'll just say cake name and buyer name. So the ID won't be there, the date won't be there. We'll let that figured out on the server, not on the client side. So this is a new database type for our SQLite database, order. We have to add that to our list of migrations. That's in configure.swift, where we say, when our app first runs, make sure cupcakes are configured on our database. It means create the actual database table itself. We're going to copy and paste that line to have also order.self. Prepare this thing to handle orders as well. Andres, thank you very much. That's awfully kind of you. So when our app first runs, create database data tables for our cupcake and our order. Do both so it's able to handle loading and saving of both, like that. Now, almost done at last, fortunately, we have to have that route that iOS is going to hit. Look at our code again. We're going to read up to localhost /order. We haven't made that yet. So over in our routes.swift file in Vapor, we're going to say router.post and order at the URL order. This will get passed into it, the request and the finished order, and will return a future order. At some point in the future, we'll just pass it back as is, as opposed to a order confirmation or anything else, just a regular order again. Now, if you remember, this thing contains the buyer name and the cake name. It has not got an ID. It has not got a date. Now, the ID field there is to identify this thing uniquely in the database. It'll automatically become the next ID number that's free in SQLite. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, a million, whatever it is down the line. That is Vapor's problem to figure out. Fluent will just do that automatically. ID is not our problem. Date is our problem. There is no date coming in. We have to attach that by hand. We're going to say get the current date, and that's the date the order came in. Now this cupcake coming in, this order thing here, this is going to have a nil value for date. So we're going to set that to be our current date. But the order is a constant passed to us by Vapor. Here's the thing we got decoded from the data. We can't modify that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of that thing. var order copy equals that original order, and modify the copy. order copy.date equals right now, the current date. And we'll return order copy.save on REQ. So save that on our current connection and then pass it back once it's saved. So the client will get back, yes, order for Bob went through successfully. Now, of course, we want to show this somewhere, otherwise it'd be rather annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the leave template again. Here we go. We have add new cupcake, and we have a list of cupcakes here. We're going to add to this a list of orders. We're going to say H2 orders and H2. Another ordered list. We'll have inside there hash for order in orders, li order number order dot cake name for hash order dot buyer name, like that. End the li, end that loop, end the ul. So it's going to look for an array called orders, loop over it, make it to an order, and put a list item saying order lemonade, for example, for Bob in the buyer name. It'll list out all the orders on the screen. I'll save that thing. Now, we have not provided that array yet. Orders not set in our route. We've got to modify that up here in our Swift code. We have get the home page here. This is currently saying get all cupcakes, and when I've got the cupcakes, pass them to Leaf to render out with that array of cupcakes. But there's a problem, because now we want two database queries. We want to say, get me all the cupcakes, and also at the same time, get me all the orders, and only when both of those things are done, pass them to Leaf to render. Now this might seem awfully hard. Vapor makes it almost trivial. It's absolutely beautiful. It's just, I mean, so much work went into this. I was at Vapor 3 from the earliest alphas, and I saw this evolve and evolve and evolve and get refined. You're seeing this wonderfully rarefied version of Fluid, which is so beautiful, so elegant, and so simple. You can combine these two features together at the same time to trigger only when both of them are finished in something else. Now, there is one complexity here, which is that at this point, we no longer really want to just use dictionaries, because dictionaries are a bit simple, and they're not very safe, because you can make mistakes. You could have like a capital C here, for example, which is not safe at all, or have typos. A better idea, when anything complex comes in like this, is to have custom data types, custom structs. You instantiate and send, because that way it's totally type safe, it's totally guaranteed by Swift. It's a much, much better idea, and there's no difference in terms of performance, so it's a really good idea. So inside this get route, I'm going to start by making an internal type, a struct just for this route that will send back an array of cupcakes and an array of orders. So I'll do struct page data is content, has a property called cupcakes, which is an array of cupcake, and an array of orders, which is an array of order. Boom. And now we can't make spelling mistakes anymore or pass the wrong data type in. It's always going to be called cupcakes. I have an array of cupcake. And what will happen is this effectively becomes a dictionary that's passed to Leaf. It'll look for cupcakes inside there and orders. It'll find the same name inside our struct, and it works just like a dictionary. It's really, really nice. Anyway, inside our route now, we can make two database calls. We're going to say first, our cakes is equal to cupcake.query on the request .all. And that will be, if you look, an event loop future cupcake. A future array of cupcakes at some point in the future it'll finish, right? We don't care when. We're also going to say orders is equal to order.query on the request .all. So get me all cupcakes and all the orders at the same time. And now we can use a new version of FlatMap. I'll get rid of this code. A new version of FlatMap, a global version of FlatMap. We can say return FlatMap to the view, just like before, a finished Vapor Leaf view rendered. But this takes multiple parameters. It can say when this and that finish, call this FlatMap. So we'll do view.self, comma, cakes, comma, orders. So wait for both of those two things to finish. And only when it's finished, call the FlatMap's body. This will get two values passed in, which will be our loaded cakes and our loaded orders. Now these two have the same names as these two here, but they're not the same. These are the ones that have finished loaded from the database table. So we can use these now with Leaf. We can say let context equals a page data value with the cupcakes being an array of cupcakes, that's our cupcakes, and orders being an array of orders, that's our orders array. And return try req.view.render home with that context. Just pass in that whole page data struct. And Vapor knows exactly what that means. It's to say, aha, that's a struct with some values, encode those to JSON, encode all the properties to JSON, again, 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 then pass all that to Leaf to render out, which is really, really nice. That should build cleanly. That's screwed up somewhere. It did, good. Let's use that somewhere. If you want to, if I press Command R, you should see it live or being well. It's now running. I can see that in Safari. Boom. Orders, there are none. Great. Let's go to our iOS app and try the whole thing, the whole shebang, after only an hour and 3/4 of speed talking. Let's see if the whole shebang is actually going to work. So here is strawberry cupcake or lemon cupcake. I'm going to tap on that thing. Do I want to order one? Yes, I do. This is for my daughter, Sophie. I'll press order it. You'll see in the log here, Sophie came back. It's come back from the server successfully. And over in our Safari window, we should see Command R, boom, order a lemon cupcake for Sophie. So it's all coming through really, really nicely, going back to the data to iOS and from iOS back to the server again, posting it from there using URL request. There is so much more you can do with this. I mean, Vapor is extremely, extremely powerful. You see we have this date field, for example, in our order, whereas in our Vapor project, sorry, in here, date field. You can put that into Leaf if you want. You can say, hey, Leaf, show this date here so they'll know when it's come in by the hour, minute, and seconds. They know when it's going to be delivered for. And that's really easy. I actually wrote this for the Vapor team myself because it's so easy to do. You can just say for order name at hash symbol date. And now have your date value, which in our case is order.date, backed up by a date string. So you could do, HH colon mm whatever you want to, seconds, or dd yy, whatever date format you want, and it'll be passed directly onto the date formatter class inside of Swift. So I can just build that, and hopefully now to refresh Safari, boom, the order was placed in 1944, which is accurate, fantastic, on that date, which is great. Whew. Right, this is a good chance now to finish a project. I've got a whole book on Vapor. It's called Certified Swift Vapor Edition. It's really good. It goes into way more detail than this on all sorts of things. Obviously, a much more sedate pace as well. If you enjoyed this stream and you have liked the video, go and check out that book. It's awesome. You'd love it there. You can see much more about Swift there. It's hackers.com/store/server-side Swift. And it's great. So go and check that out for Vapor, and it's recommended. Okay, that brings me to the end of my talk. We have managed to do, in an hour and 3/4 of speed talking, a complete Vapor backend with databases and HTML templating and similar. We've added an iOS app on the front end to receive the data and send back new data. There's all sorts in this project. I hope you've learned a lot in the very short amount of time we have. In the remaining sort of quarter of an hour or so, I did try and keep it at 2 hours if possible. This is your chance to ask questions about Vapor, about iOS, about Swift, this is your chance to ask questions, quite frankly. So please go ahead and give me your questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Obviously, there are many things I don't know, so I'll happily tell you I don't know how to answer a question. Oh, hey, Arvid, cool. We're going to do a live stream at iOSCon for Swift over coffee. In fact, I might even bring some stickers. If you're lucky, come and show me a book receipt and you get your free sticker. So yes, recommend that. Go and watch that live stream. That'd be great. It'd be a live me and Sean. So yeah, go check it out. Anyway, this code's gonna be on GitHub soon. I post all the Swift on Sundays code to GitHub, the same repo, which is GitHub 2straws Swift on Sundays. It'll be there shortly, and at that point, it's your project. Take it, finish it, add to it, modify it. I don't really care. It's your call. What do I love most about Vapor? Good question. So Vapor, I think, is a brilliant poster child for Swift because it uses codable, it uses key paths, it uses conditional conformances, some really advanced Swift features like associated types and stuff all over the place. It relies heavily on generics and all these other things. It really pushed Swift 4.1 to its absolute limits. They're pushing Swift 4.2 even harder. They make it work extremely hard. So I love that they are really exercising some of the most advanced features of Swift to let us write ridiculously short code. You saw, I know it took me an hour and 3/4, but that was, two sides of the coin, The actual code in all our routes is 38 lines, including white space, and that's handling HTML rendering, JSON vending, modifying orders and similar, modifying via form as well. There's all sorts in here from Vapor, which is remarkable. Really, it's such a brilliant poster child for Swift, and I look forward to them continuing to push Swift hard. Swift 5 or 5.1 and similar in the future to really some really, really great stuff there. So, yeah, recommended. Next question. So, question from iKendak. So, is it feasible to deploy Vapor to a Linux server on VPS for production state services? So, the problem isn't necessarily deployment. The problem you're going to face is, how do I do this thing in Swift? Because when you're using Ruby or Python or PHP or Node or any one of the massive frameworks, PHP is installed on something like 2/3 of websites in the world. It's vast compared to Swift. Swift's a rounding error compared. And you're going to say, how do I do image rendering? How do I do PDF rendering? Whatever it happens to be in Swift. And in Python, in Ruby, in PHP, in Node, there is a library for that. There are 10 libraries for that. You just drop in and use. In Swift, there isn't. So you'll find yourself rolling your own things a lot of the time. Now, in that particular case, I happen to have written one for you because I'm just so nice to you. Go to github.com/2straws/swiftgd. There's support of the GD framework from PHP to Swift. So you can make images dynamically in Swift. Resize them, pixelate them, flip them, and so forth in Swift. So I've done that one for you, but there are many, 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 many things that aren't ported to Swift yet. So you're going to find yourself saying, wow, in Ruby, I just do import this thing and it'll just work. In Swift, you're like, okay, I'll write from scratch, or I'll port it from scratch, which isn't very pleasant, to be honest with you. As for installing it, one thing they make very, very clear is you don't really want your Vapor server front-ending anything. It's got to be behind a proxy. It's not, even though it's very performant, it's very efficient and so forth, it's not really designed to hit, clients directly. You want it behind Squid or behind some mirroring service out there that does not hit Swift directly, ideally. So yes, be careful with your deployments. Maxim, I just kind of answered that. Can we substitute PHP with Vapor for your backend? If you don't mind your choice going down by several orders of magnitude in terms of frameworks, you'll be fine. I use PHP a lot for server-side backend stuff, and Composer is a long way ahead of Swift Package Manager, and it's frustrating losing that, to be honest with you. Manuel, look at Vapor Cloud. Teach Sean how to use Vapor. All right, I'll see what I can do. He's in London 2 weeks, 10 days from now, so maybe I'll have to see him then, perhaps. Would I recommend Vapor for an enterprise project? And Mohammed, Vapor versus Katura. So, there are two major server-side Swift frameworks at this point. There's Perfect as well, but no one can use Perfect, realistically. It's Vapor and Katura. And their outlook on code is very, very different. It couldn't be any more different, quite frankly. Katura evolves much more slowly, much more stably, because they have very, very serious enterprise clients behind them. People like Mercedes-Benz, people like ING Direct use Katura now. It's not theoretical. Who uses Katura? Who uses it? They're using it right now for live stuff. They are. And they want to make sure the code they write isn't broken in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever, a year, 2 years. They want long-term stability. And long-term stability is kind of what IBM does. So I understand why Katura is so very popular in the enterprise space. On the flip side, Vapor's massively popular in the community space. I mean, really, if you went to a community meetup and said, "Hi, I use Katura," you're basically by yourself. Everyone else will use Vapor. I mean, they filled a massive space at a Dub meetup last year. It was super popular and it's growing quickly. It is by far the fanboy, fangirl choice is Vapor. It's very, very good. I do love using it. But be fully aware they might just break things in the future, because that they can do what they like, and they have done in the past. So, Vapor 2 to Vapor 3 was literally throw away all your code, step 1. Step 2, rewrite all your code. When there was no compatibility upgrade path, it was literally throw away all your code, do it again. And they're cool with that. And I'm cool with that, quite frankly, because I don't run Mercedes-Benz. But if you are making an enterprise project and you want that long-term stability, I suggest IBM Katura is probably a better bet. If you are just noodling around, enjoying yourself, exploring server-side Swift, you're going to have a lot more fun with Vapor, quite frankly. Arvid, can I talk about how to share code? So, it's problematic. There's a brilliant quote by Sandy Metz, and I think it was RubyConf a few years ago, which is that duplication is far better than the wrong abstraction. And what she means is you can try and think ahead and try and be clever and try and reuse code and try and, inheritance or pop or who knows what. If you get it wrong, or if you don't get it wrong, it can take an awfully long time to do it well. And sometimes, in fact often, just duplicating your code, copy, paste, will be easier, faster, and more stable in the long term, easy to maintain, easy to understand. Now, there's a limit. Martin Fowler has this thing, the rule of 3. Copy the code once, fine. 2 copies is fine. Having another copy, a third copy of the code, becomes problematic. At that point, you want to explore refactoring it to make it more reusable. In this case, server, client, that's 1 copy of the code. That's fine. So in this case, I really wouldn't bother trying to reuse it. There is a project from Katura called Katura Kit, if I remember correctly, which is designed to reduce this kind of problematic code, where the iOS client and the server client can share the same models. If you want to use that, fine. I wouldn't. I haven't got a problem with this kind of duplication. It's simple, it's obvious, and it's clear. It's not hard to use, not hard to maintain. If you happen to change your models regularly, which is very unlikely on the web, if you did, fine, it'd be problematic. But usually in the web, we tend to fix URLs and have v1/cupcakes, and I'll always return the same cupcake struct forever and ever and ever and ever. And then you do v2 for breaking changes and v3 for even more breaking changes and so forth. You wouldn't mutate the API directly because that would just cause problems. So I wouldn't recommend it. Giuliano, I have no idea what the best cloud is. I'm not a cloud review expert, sorry. Douglas Smith, am I planning to do any ML with TensorFlow? No, I'm not. No, I've done ML with CreateML and CoreML, and it's very nice. For my audience, that's more than enough. TensorFlow is very interesting. It's not interesting to me. And ultimately, the books I write are what interests me right now. If I'm sitting there going, oh, TensorFlow is really exciting, fine, I'd do a book on TensorFlow. I'm not, so no book. Am I doing talks in Germany in the near future? I don't think so. In fact, I don't think any more this year. I think I've got Amsterdam this week, iOS Con London the next week. Then I'm free to dub. And I might do a talk at AltConf. I might not. I'm not sure. It was very busy last year. I'd rather not. And that leaves me free till September, when I'd like to do some more events. But I am going to hopefully host my own event this year. My own Hacking Swift Live event this year. I haven't announced it yet, but hopefully any day now I'll be sending out final dates saying it's happening. An iOS Conf with Swift here in London by me and my friends. And hopefully it'll be great. Any other pitfalls when working with Vapor? That's a big question, Arvid. Yes, there's so many pitfalls to be aware of, quite frankly. There's so many pitfalls to be aware of. Not least that it's evolving quickly. One of the nice things, I know it's nice and bad in equal measures. With Apple, every year, dub, they say, right, here is 5,000 new APIs to use, whether that's iOS 11, which is huge with drag and drop and Core NFC and Core ML and the Bluetooth work they made and all the other things they made all at once. Bang! ARKit. It's huge, right? Which is annoying, but it's centralized. It's like, there you go. With Vapor, you've got to get into the mindset of the web. And we're not in that mindset. We're very much in an annual release mindset in the iOS space. And in the web, things change all the time. If you follow any JS developers on Twitter, you'll know that what's cool today is not cool tomorrow, and it's deeply uncool the day after tomorrow. And Vapor is equally breakneck speed evolving. They'll add things regularly and change things freely. So be prepared to keep up to date. 3.1 comes out, 3.2, 3.3. They're probably already planning 4.0. You've got to do more work to keep up with that. And that takes time. There's no easy way of doing that. You've got to join the Discord. I personally hate Discord. I don't go on Discord anymore. But they have a Discord server you can join for Vapor chat, and they'll announce Vapor releases there. Follow that very, very carefully, and you'll be okay. But it is more intense than the annual dub thing, where it's once a year, bang. I mean, we all know the thing, right? We know, well, June this year, probably the first week, let's write off that week. No work's happening that week. We're all watching dub videos, trying to see what's new and what's changing. With Vapor or Katura, it's a rolling release. Every few months, a new version comes out, so there's more work to keep up with it. Konath, have you used Vapor in production? No, I have not. I really, honestly, as much as I love server-side Swift, the fact that I can't pull in frameworks I know solving problems annoys me. And I'm not making a living off writing frameworks with Vapor. No one does that. Open source stuff, right? I want to make my goal to do like this new rearrange the lines thing I launched a few days ago, or 100 Days of Swift, whatever. I want to get content out quickly and interactively fast, as opposed to, I've got to write a framework for this, write a framework for that. So I much prefer being able to say, I want to use these off-the-shelf components. So for me, Vapor just isn't there yet. And that's not a Vapor thing. Katura isn't there either. Swift as a whole on the server isn't there yet. It'll be quite a while before that ecosystem's built up enough for me to want to do it. If your needs are small, Mercedes-Benz have a lot of internal business logic as opposed to external frameworks, fine, I can see that. For me, not so much. Skullet Butt. How will I compress image bytes before sending to the database? Databases are good at many things, Skullet Butt. They're not good at images. Don't store images in databases. Images are a very bad choice for databases. Store those separately as files and link the file name to a database. Otherwise, you go confused. That's very kind, David. Thank you very much. Luna, I just heard us barking downstairs. You probably didn't hear that. So she's busy downstairs barking at some sort of squirrel walking past the front door, I expect. Does it work in Mac OS 10 Create ML? I'm not sure it's designed to work in Swift desktop apps. I think it's designed to work as a playground. I haven't seen anyone use it as a desktop app yet. I think it's specifically designed for playgrounds, but I might be wrong. Anyway, Arvid. Did you hear your name being mentioned? Hello, Moochie. Come here. See, David, you actually attracted a dog with your mention has pulled the dog into a video. Good work. Come here. Come say hello. It's getting heavy. There you go. Question. Oh, sorry. You want a treat, didn't you? Sorry. There you go. Sorry, dog. Promise you a treat. Thank you, one. There you go. Is there a way to compile a Vapor so it's executable to be deployed and learn from xcode? Well, I'd be very careful with that. Be really careful with that. You could go. Because realistically, if you want to get serious about Vapor or get serious about deploying to Linux, you probably want to use Docker, at which point it becomes a whole other world of pain. So yeah, you'll be careful with that. Anyway, thank you very much for the video. You're most welcome. Waiting for day 38. Alpha, I'm waiting for day 38 as well. I'm sure it'll come soon. I'm not sure when, so hopefully soon. Yeah. Let's get a dog another treat or two. Look, Luna, you get some money for being a good dog from David. Come here. Come on, get a treat. There we go. Good dog. That's your €2 in action right there, David. Every donation I get, I give one more treat to the dog. How to properly compress image byte size. That's a whole other world of pain. I suspect using JPEG would be the answer there. You'll find that SwiftUG on the screen right now does do file conversion, so it can say, come on. You can say, I got this ping from the user, convert to a JPEG. Good go. And then give it a compression size that's really small. Obviously, when it's really small, 100 kilobytes, you'll get some really manky JPEGs. It won't look good at all. So be careful how you compress your pictures there because it might look terrible. Going from 1 meg to 100 kilobytes is challenging. So you have to look very carefully at that. Try JPEGs, see how you get on. You know, Stephen, I do think she does know that. She hears you talking. Come on. She hears you talking, I think, and realises that this could be the chance to get some free treats from people like David who donate money for her to get treats. Come on. Good dog. You're a good dog. You're earning treats, you see. Anyway. If you have any more questions, go ahead and let me know. I'll get onto it as soon as I can. Otherwise, I'll scroll through the list and look for any I missed. Blah, blah, blah. Best Cloud, Epicatura, Teach Sean. I'll do my best. Oh, sorry, Robert, I missed your question. Why use Vapor or Node or .NET? Honestly, it's about what your team does. The question realistically becomes, can we, as Swift developers, save money, be more efficient, share more code, if we use Swift for our iOS apps and for our backends as well? Come on, man. Come on, get another treat. This is David, so nice to you. Come on. And if we do, then great. Same is equally true, by the way. Just keep this in mind. Same is equally true of JS developers. Because they can write React Native apps. They can write Node backends. So they've got the same sort of business case happening. Now, in that particular case, you might say, well, you know, React Native looks terrible on iOS. Their response might be, well, server-side Swift is pretty terrible compared to Node. Which, I mean, you can make an argument for because, like I said, there's hardly any frameworks available for it. Good girl. They like you so much. I think they like you more than me. Maybe it's time with dogs on Sundays, perhaps. What's the name of my pet? She's called Luna. She is a Samoyed. They are a Spitz-type dog in the family of Huskies. So she likes pulling the lead on walks very much. But she's very friendly. She's very, very, very child-friendly, which is why we got her. She's a bad guard dog, but a great child guard. Come on, last one. This is the last one, okay? Good dog. Can I make a video about dispatch queue? Maybe I could do a video about dispatch queue. I should probably do an article on it at the very least. All right, off you go. Come on, we'll go. Skedaddle. Any different documentation on Vapor? No. That's all right. Honestly, actually, no. There is another book on Vapor, which is the Ray Wenderlich book from Tim. I've heard very good things about that. So you know, if you hate my book, hate the docs, buy Tim's book. Tim's a really nice guy. I've heard good things about that book, so go check that out. That is 8:05. I have gone on now for more than 2 hours. If you have any more questions, now is your last chance. Please don't forget, like the video. If you've enjoyed this work, the least you can do is to like the video and like the dog. If you hate the dog, you don't like the video. Anna, that's very kind. Thank you very much. Any news on the pillows? No, they're mine. I don't plan to sell those pillows, I'm afraid. Sorry. Do I have anything in mind for the next Swift on Sunday? No, I don't, I'm afraid. I try to think of it as I go. People have really asked for more Sprite Kit. Of everything I've done, that's the one I've asked for more of, is more Sprite Kit. So I might return to Sprite Kit. I don't know. I want to make sure it's unique, different kind of things being covered. So I'll think carefully about that. I don't want to go over too much the same ground again. So we'll see. Maybe Sprite Kit, maybe not. I'll let you know, Wednesday or so once I have an actual idea in place. But I am, of course, in Amsterdam this week for 3 days. So I could be a bit late preparing that one. Yeah, it was very popular, Rob. People like Sprite Kit a lot, which is great. But obviously I want to make sure it's a unique game each time. So we'll see. Is it any for decoding, rendering Unicode? No, Brian. Swift is all native Unicode. So it'll work great. It'll work, emojis, whatever, all you want. It'll look fantastic. So don't worry about that. You still here? I said that was the last one. Is that the last one? Okay, look. Anna gave £5, so you can have another treat because everyone likes you so much. Come on. This is the really last one, though. Okay, good go. Right, now you skedaddle. That's it. No more treats for you. That's your lot. You get fat otherwise. Stephen, I am glad you're enjoying 100 Days of Swift. It's a lot of fun to write. I need to get 38s done soon. Sorry, I am a bit behind on Sundays. It's always difficult with this and 100 Days and fencing tournaments and other things. I'm glad you like the stream. Thank you very much. I'll see you all on Twitter. I am 2 Straws, TWO Straws. If you have any more questions, you can grab me there or find me on the Slack. The Slack channel is very good for that as well. Alperen, will 100 Days of Swift go into Sprite Kit? Yes, it will, shortly. We're just finishing Project 8 now, and 11 is the first Sprite Kit one, so you'll get there soon. Will Vapor be in 100 Days? No, it won't be, sorry. It will not be. I try and keep my mainstream learning really fixed on what Apple does. That's what folks want to learn. They want to learn UI Kit and Sprite Kit and core graphics and core image and core motion and all these other things like that. So I try and keep it fixed on Apple stuff as much as possible. So yes, it'll not be Vapor, I'm afraid. Maybe 100 Days of Server-Side Swift. No. We'll see. We'll see. Anything about feature and promises? But maybe. But I want to make sure we're doing actual apps for now, Jeepaluke. You know, right now it's not always, but for now I want to get into a habit of making an app a week, so you can see things from scratch every time. Now in practice, in May, I'm probably going to be bored of doing apps every week, and so will you. So we might start doing techniques like async, feature promises, or other things like that. We'll see. For now, though, I'm keeping it really simple and just looking at apps every week for now. How can I pass 2 label data from view control to first? That's a very precise question, Emre. It's probably best asked on Stack Overflow, to be honest with you. Question from Murtalp. Can you share this video on YouTube? It's going to be on YouTube. It'll take me a little while because the video is quite so long. It's like 2 hours, 10 minutes. So it's going to be on YouTube soon as a replay. But it'll be a while. You reach me on Slack. Yes, I can invite you to Slack if you like. I can give you an invite for that thing. Hacking a Swift, invite people. I'll just paste the link into the chat window and you can join from there. Share invite link, copy and paste into. Oops. Sign into chat. I want to sign into the chat. Rats. What's I going to do? Reload? No! Oh, I was going to have to authenticate my entire thing. Right, that's totally failed. I'm really sorry. The chat's totally failed. So don't do that. Don't be like me. Don't go to the chat window. Let's go back to the chat window again. I apologize. I cannot paste the Slack thing in there. I'll post it on Twitter imminently, and you'll see it there. There is no Patreon. It's an open Slack. You can come and join. There is actually a 100 Days of Swift channel on there. If you are following that scheme and you want help or tips or whatever, you can go and ask questions there. Goosewag, is it going to be Zibs or is Swift? No. It's either storyboards or all code. We just passed an all code project, Project 8. That's left a few folks stinging, I think. They've really seen how verbose code UIs can be, even for a very simple UI. But mostly it's storyboards or code. We don't do Zibs in there at all. Anyway, that is now 10 minutes past 8. With an app using the camera, it's possible, Alan. We did Sprite Kit. That requires a device being plugged in because the iPad image is so very slow for doing Sprite Kit. So I had to have a device plugged in. So yes, that might actually work. But then I have to have my iPad running an app with the camera, streaming the app and the camera to my thing, to my desktop, and then streaming out to you onto YouTube. So that'll be an interesting challenge. We'll see. Right, listen, that is 10 past 8. We've gone way over time by 10 minutes. I apologize. Follow me on Twitter. I'll tweet the Slack workspace link there imminently. Thank you very much for coming. Please like the video. Please subscribe to my channel. I enjoyed doing these things, but I do need your help to support and spread the word. Tell folks you enjoyed it. That'd be really appreciated. Otherwise, grab me on Twitter, ask questions there, or on Slack, or email me. I am Paul at hackingwithswift.com. Thank you very much for coming. It's been a pleasure.